Good morning, trainer. I think what a lot of people are waiting for, which is our upcoming title, World of Kogaea. So, World of Kogaea, designed to be a mobile native game or a multi-platform game. Genesis is obviously playable on Android and iOS, and also on WebGL. World of Kogaea will not be available on the web simply because the web just can't handle the level of requirements that are needed for it. However, we will be adding PC clients in the future, so the game will basically play cross-platform regardless of which platform you're on. You'll be playing with all the same players. We're sort of looking to the world of KMON across all of your platforms available to you at your fingertips whenever you want. Many of you, this is probably your first look at your gameplay in World of Kogaea. You basically play as your trainer, and you have your Cryptomon companions that will basically follow you around. A lot of the stuff that you'll see from Genesis, as we talk about different types of assets, things like clothing and cosmetics, which will be coming out in Genesis in the next month or so, has a basic clothing system. If you play Genesis, you'll be pretty familiar with it. You can basically swap out for different pieces of equipment. You also will have access to your Cryptomon. So as I mentioned, our big thing is portability of NFTs. So you invest with us once, buy some high quality NFTs, and then you'll be able to use them to play across our entire franchise. For the community preview, all of your junior level Cryptomon and above will basically be available for you to play from production. So you'll be able to kind of get your first look at your Cryptomon. All of our Cryptomon have basically been ported to 3D. You'll notice that some of them have the sparkling aura. Those are the aura unfreezable Cryptomon. So all that stuff carries forward as well. You can swap your different Cryptomon. From a gameplay perspective, you're not going to have access to all of your Cryptomon while you're out exploring the world of Kogaea. There's some gameplay mechanics. You'll essentially be able to take a portion of them out with you, depending on your level of progression in the game and different things that you earn. You can unlock different slots so that way you can have additional Cryptomon that are available to you out while you're playing. This gameplay is really focused on sort of open world gameplay, collaborations with friends, different types of things. Creates more of a social dynamic, so there's going to be a lot of sort of player interaction, player collaboration. Obviously, guilds and things will be super important. Figured that was going to happen. So, as you probably see, there are other players in the world. It's a MMORPG. Right now, basically, whoever this is playing literally somewhere across the world, and we're just hanging out. This is one region, so this is Bosco Valley. This is where we'll basically be starting our adventure. There are 8 other regions. Basically, if you've seen the map that you can see up on our website, we've got 8 elemental regions plus Primus, which is the sort of main city region. In terms of map size, you can take a look. It's pretty huge. I think this map is about roughly equivalent of like 10 square kilometers. So it's a pretty big world, lots of exploration to do. I think I've shown some videos of this before, but there's all kinds of stuff you can do to participate in sort of interact with things in the world. So just notice down here that this fishing pool basically gives me the ability to fish out of it. So we use what's called an interaction system. So when you get close to something that you can interact with, your buttons change, and you can kind of interact with different things in the world, collect resources. In this case, I caught a fish. The moss head. It's really sort of an open world concept where basically you have to go and find them, and they're out in the wild. We use this sparkle effect in most cases in order to sort of show that there's something you can interact. It's not always the case. You can interact with things potentially that don't sparkle, but a lot of like the farming, gathering actions basically use this sort of indicator. So in this case, I'm using mining. So in this case, mining in a stump. And so this is basically how resources are gathered in the game. You can collect them. I think there's another one over here. It looks like this server is our test server is basically got a pretty quick respawn rate. So I think the resources are respawning every 60 seconds. But in the future, the resource respawn rate will be sort of more limited. So that way, things like you'll actually have to go out and farm materials and things like that in order to craft things. If you've played Genesis, you'll also notice we have an inventory system. So all those items that I just collected show up in my inventory. So I've got my fish, I've got my bramble nut, and my oak heart. And so those items are basically being used for crafting. You'll be able to craft different types of food items, things to take care of your Cryptomon, battle consumables, all the different things that you would expect from your typical MMO. We're still working through those mechanics. There's sort of two things that are sort of on the table when it comes to sort of progression. One is that your Cryptomon leveling will be tied specific to a game. So if you are level 50 in Genesis, that won't have any bearing on your progression in Walk. Or the other option is basically your levels carry over, and then you would sort of have the progression carried over. There's pros and cons to both. So you'll be able to wear those assets, which is obviously a huge plus when you start coming out to play in Walk. So even if the levels don't carry over, then it will be something that we can sort of you'll sort of get that progression. So I think we mentioned that we're going to be hosting a community preview event. Trainers Club members will automatically be able to whitelist for it, and then everyone else will have some campaigns, some events that will allow you to kind of whitelist and register for it. The purpose of these community previews, I didn't give too much detail, but they're really sort of twofold. One is for us to get some players exposed to the game, get some feedback, but also sort of test core mechanics. So this first community preview is going to basically be focused on questing. So right now there's a test quest line in the game where you basically will be, as part of the preview, in order to earn your rewards, which we'll talk about a little bit later, you basically run through and play through the quest line. Once you complete the quest line, at the end of the preview, we'll ask you for some feedback, anything worked, didn't work, bugs, that type of stuff. And then if you can finish the feedback and also finish the quest line, you'll be dropped sort of some rewards for participating. And those rewards will sort of accumulate over the course of the tech previews. And then the goal is basically to allow you to take those rewards and use them to craft things in our crafting system that are super unique and rare for the launch of the game. As I mentioned, we have a bunch of different systems, including our quest system. So in this case, you'll notice I just found the Wander and Explore, which is part of this quest line. If I go into my actual quest, so I have a quest log. So the game's got pretty decent progression in terms of systems and frameworks. In this case, the quest was entering Bosco Valley, come into a search, find clues about the region, find the Wandering Explorer, and win some rewards. You'll notice that we've got item rewards, we've also got reputation rewards. So as I mentioned, it's a full-featured MMO. So we've got a full faction reputation system. So if I go in here and go to my faction tab, there's a whole bunch of different factions. And for those of you that don't know, it's kind of like guilds, but it's a little bit different. Basically, there are people and groups of people that you can do quests for or give them things, and you earn sort of favor with them. And as you get through certain levels of favor, they open up rewards or they open up quests and other types of things that you can earn. Obviously, you get to the highest levels of reputation. In this case, I've finished all the requirements and objectives, click complete. And I'll basically have completed the quest. You'll notice I got 200 rep, got some items, and now my rep is gone. These systems will change a little bit. We'll talk about the battle mechanics, but you will only ever have one Cryptomon active. When you go to perform interactions or gather things, there's checks to basically see what type of element you have active. This is the battle scene. The way that Cryptomon battles work today in Genesis is everything is turn-based, and so I'm a huge fan of strategy games. Obviously, that's why Genesis was sort of designed the way that it was. I like the fact that there's a lot of sort of chess-like mechanics to it. However, when you're building an open world game, in my experience, the turn-based mechanics just don't do the game justice. There's just not enough depth of gameplay. It's not super engaging and everything sort of feels very scripted. And so as part of World of Kogaea, we are essentially taking the Genesis battle engine and converting it into real-time combat. The idea is that creatures will have sort of an aggro range. So in this case, I'm going to go near this Cryptomon. He's going to start to come after me. You'll be able to run away. They'll have a tether section. Obviously, we'll sort of play around with the balance, how far the person can run away. You don't want to always be able to run away from battles. They will also cast spells when you're and attack you. So even if you're running away, they'll still be hitting your Cryptomon. But it'll sort of be one of those mechanics where basically you're running around and you have to kind of figure out who's going to attack you, what you're going to attack, that type of stuff. As of right now, a lot of the in-game items that we use in Genesis are most likely not going to be carried over. Things like Tamagotchi food and other things like that. We are looking at some mechanics to have some of those sort of carry between games. We've talked about, so if anyone's familiar with lore, obviously you know that Kogaea. Kogaea is basically a place that you access Pink Moon events and through portals that sort of bridge the two worlds. And so the idea is that we might allow players to bring a small amount of Earth-based items, which is what we kind of consider the Genesis items, over into the game on a periodic basis. But there'll be a whole new set of items, whole new set of craftables. The crafting system is pretty expanded. We're going to kind of build a hybrid. So there was a set of questions about currency in the new game. So we're still working through the technical details, but the general concept, we're going to try and make the game as seamless as possible. So when you go and you finish a quest, for example, there's going to be a set of rewards. You as a player are not going to necessarily know which ones are NFTs and which ones aren't NFTs. Some of them will be in-game items, some of them will be NFTs, and when you actually finish the quest, our back-end services will essentially send you and mint the items in real time, similar to what happens today, except I think we do airdrop. So the idea is we're gonna work on sort of a real-time system. So you craft an item in World of Kogaea, maybe some of them are in-game item materials, some of them are NFTs, and then you get an NFT back, and like the game will sort of be relatively seamless. If you look back at pretty much every single time you hear myself or like Umberto talk about how we approach game design and the use of Web3 technologies, we really focus on like what adds value to the player and to the ecosystem. And so we're not going to just make everything an NFT and have thousands of dollars of gas fees for no reason. So we're really going to kind of focus on finding that healthy balance. I will also say that the plan in World of Kogaea is for players to be able to buy and sell in-game items. I know that there's been questions about that in Genesis. Essentially, you'll be able to sort of, for example, farm oak hearts and then trade them with players or sell them to players on our in-game auction house. The breakdown between assets, between NFTs and in-game items is going to get a little bit blurry, but the real goal for the use of NFTs is going to be sort of like very big and unique items, things that would be something that would be considered an asset. So as of right now, we're mostly working on bringing the current models into game. Obviously, we're going to end up supporting adult Cryptomon too, so we'll see adult Cryptomon for the first time in World of Kogaea. A little bit of a spoiler, adult Cryptomon will be able to be used as mounts, assuming that you find or craft the appropriate NFTs for doing that. So we will have sort of a mount-based system where you can ride on your Cryptomon. It'll use some of the genome stats in order to determine sort of how fast they move and things like that. So we're going to be taking that concept of genomes, continuing to expand it into the ecosystem. They're called Pink Moon shards, and as part of the events, you'll collect them, and then those will be what you use essentially to craft the unique cosmetics or armor or items that come with the launch of the preview series. They will be tradable, so they will not be bound. So players will be able to earn them, stack them, and obviously collect them. This first one we're going to basically do sort of a flat rate reward system. So you finish the quest, you fill out the feedback, and you get your reward. So everyone else, have a good day, and I'm out.